Welcome to yet another episode of Fancy MLG Dark Souls PvP Tech, episode that elevates your gameplay straight to the next dimension. In the previous Tech Talk video, we have discussed the usefulness of parry buffering and how it allows you to effortlessly chain stab people, that is, if they don't know anything about chain backstabs. And in my previous tutorial, I've talked about the most common chain stab techniques and the multiple ways that you can use them to escape the ugly fate of being chain backstabbed. So this brings us here to the early getup tech. Initially discovered by Bobman, early getup is a lovely little piece of tech that, as the name suggests, allow you to get up from the ground after the backstab a bit earlier than you normally would. Just like everything in this game, it depends on the latency, so your mileage may differ. But generally it's not that hard to execute, yet it is super useful against parry chaining noobs and MLG chainstab pros. As I've said it earlier, attempting to chain a player has a certain risk associated with it, unless they have no idea how to deal with chain backstabs. And with these videos, my goal is to make sure that you guys know how to deal with chain stabs and normal backstabs and every cool little piece of tech in Dark Souls PvP. Anyway, point is, today's tech is a direct counter to the parry buffering trick that we have discussed a bit earlier. The early getup tech allows you to basically demolish any attempts of parry chaining, since it basically nullifies it as an option. So how do you execute the early getup? What's the trick? Well, after being backstabbed, you just hold the stick in the direction that your opponent is trying to chain you from, and then you walk towards them. Now, it isn't instant, but it seems a bit faster than the normal wake up. Not because it breaks the game and speeds up the process somehow, it just looks like your character goes directly into the walking phase, skipping the transitioning animation. Either way, it works really well, because if you nail the first part, all you have to do next is just pivot and press R1 for the backstab. Alternatively, if you are having troubles landing the pivot stab, you can just lock on after waking up and strafe backstab them. Be careful though, because just like everything else in PvP portion of Dark Souls Remastered, if your opponent gets a good read on it, they can easily counter it. While this technique effortlessly deals with parry stab attempts, it won't protect you from normal hits, and you're still susceptible to kicks and other chain types. With that being said, you don't necessarily have to counterattack your opponent. Even if they're not trying to chain stab you, you can still use this technique to get up early, regardless of what they do. It's an excellent wake up option, especially for mid-roll setups, where you don't really want to roll on wake up and you're forced to block. If you wake up using this technique, your block will pop up instantly, increasing your chances to survive. So what do we have in the end? Well, early getup is yet another piece of the puzzle. The puzzle called Dark Souls PvP options. And knowing how and when to use it is what separates good players from the bad ones. Thank you for watching, and